welcome back to the Losing It podcast. We are continuing our series of going through each of the steps on the one-to-one diet so that you can understand what's involved, what they look like, and what might be suitable for you in discussion with your own consultant or me and Nell if you come to us.
Well, it's just a lot of jargon, isn't it? It's a lot of jargon. Is
Yeah.
it one-to-one diet plan, but we've got lots of plans, but we call them steps, and they've all got a number, but that number doesn't correlate because on step 3 you eat 2 meal replacements, and on step 2 you eat 3 meal replacements. So riddle me that, Batman. You need a consultant. We don't deliberately make it this confusing. We've just been around for a really long time. Once
Yes.
you know, you know. I absolutely pride myself on not calling things other things, and we're not calling them, we're not morally judging food, we're not, call a spade, a calorie is a calorie, and understand your macros more than becoming obsessed with some kind of regime that overcomplicates things with
Yeah.
the language and point systems.
Learn the skills so that you can implement them to keep the weight off later on.
And it out in the real world in a way that
Yes.
that verbiage, that language will transfer into the real world, so that if you then become interested in learning more about your own diet and how to drive things for yourself, then you go out into the world, and macros are macros and proteins are proteins, and we understand a little bit more about ourselves and what works for us within these food groups and these different ratios and things, and we don't get locked in, and we can do all of that. You don't need to understand all of the meal replacement element. We can kind of personalize even that part. But the reason we do like doing these videos is because if you're here just to try and figure some of it out, we just want to explain it.
Yes. So this week we're going to talk about step 2 on the one-to-one diet. This is where you get some conventional food alongside some meal replacements. So step 2 is 3 meal replacement products alongside a 200-calorie meal that has some structure to it. It's not just any old 200 calories you fancy. It's not a Mars bar instead of a real meal. No, 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 no. We're going to give you some good nutrition so that you can feel better, you can feel fuller for longer, you can get the results you want, and you can have good fuel going in your body to give you that energy to keep you going. All of the things that we have talked about in our previous videos.
It's protein prioritization. So what you will see on the list that we give you is it's 90% protein with some vegetables. If you're going to ask somebody to eat that much protein, you also want them to have a little bit more fiber, quite a significant amount more fiber. So the ratio is it's a big protein portion and then vegetables. And we can, it's made up of lots of lean animal protein, but we can also cater for vegetarians. It does feel very prescriptive, but a lot of people are attracted to that on these lower steps because the regime is, I'm just going to tell you what to eat. And often people feel quite relieved. They're like, oh, good, because I don't actually want to do all that thinking and counting. And especially everything I just said about the language going around that and having to learn whole new systems. Actually, it's a cheap set of kitchen scales. Measure your protein and measure your vegetables. And if you have slightly too many green beans, we're not throwing them away. We're not cutting perfectly good bits of chicken or throwing prawns out because they're slightly over on the measurement. It is there to keep you in that kind of fast 800-calorie space. So it because, like Heidi says, it's conventional food. It's not the same as doing the lower step that we call step 1B. We do have videos on them as well, where it's 4 products that's also 800 calories. It is, it is the same but different. So the makeup of it is different, and it suits different people for different reasons. It might be that you want to have conventional food in there and total meal replacement isn't attractive to you. It might be that actually you've done total meal replacement for a really long time, and this is a gentle reintroduction into how do I handle real conventional food again, and with minimal responsibility and lots of guidance. It might be that actually you want a little bit of flex in there. So you want to be able to go out for lunch with your mum on a Saturday afternoon, and everywhere does a decent chicken salad, maybe without all the croutons and the salad dressing. So there's it suits lots of different people for lots of different reasons, doesn't it? We love step 2.
Yes, we absolutely, it's one of our favourite steps. Mind you, we might say that at the start of every video, so just forgive us if we do, because we do love all of the steps for different reasons, because they fit different people for different reasons, and that's why we have a whole range of them, so we can find the one that works best for you. And like Nell said, if you watched last week's video, which was about total meal replacement, so just having the meal replacement products, and you were like, well, I like the aspect of not having quite so much responsibility, taking the overwhelm away, giving myself a bit of a breather, but I would like to eat a meal with my partner. I would like to have a meal with my kids. This step two gives you that with that little meal bolted on. So this is the steps book. This is what you get given when you do plan. Has lots of good information in it, but it also has guidance on step two. So you go to the little pages, what to eat, and it explains, like Nell said, it's going to say 80 grams of vegetables from the list. If it's not on the list, it's not coming in. Think of yourself like a little food bouncer. Um, and then over the page, you'll have a list of proteins, vegetarian proteins and meat eater proteins. And it will tell you exactly how much to those proteins should be. So for example, chicken breast, 170 grams, prawns, 260 grams. You get a lot of prawns. You might need to take out a second mortgage to buy that many prawns in the week.
Very
But
high in protein,
you
very
get
low
a
in
lot of
calories.
them. If quantity is the thing that lights up your little brain, some nice load of spinach that weighs very light with a lot of prawns, you're in heaven, quite frankly, if you are somebody that eats
It does,
prawns.
it does mean that you should, you only need a small repertoire of meals. We don't need to reinvent
Not
everything.
complicating it.
We're not going to make you eat the things on that list that you don't want to.
No.
That's not
Big
really
long list.
what we're doing here. It is quite a long list, yeah. And that's not really what we're doing here. Actually, what we want to do is zone in on the things, that you currently like. And of course, we
Yes.
want to encourage a broad diet, and you may well try things and experiment with things that you weren't eating before, but we're not really there yet. And a lot of that happens in consultation. That is the very one-to-one kind of bespoke nature of the plan. On step three, later on, and we'll do a video on that, it is more, calorie counting, good old fashioned. What do you like to eat? Let's work backwards. Let's work on portion control. Let's make this a very personalized process for you. On step two, it is that little bit more prescriptive, but even within that, I would encourage you to not do the chicken salad version, because that gets really boring. And we want to get all our amino acids from various different proteins, so we will encourage you to keep it varied. But my rule is keep it simple. Keep it simple. Have 3 or 4 things that that you like, that fit with plan, that have been measured. Create that kind of muscle memory for that portion control. And you rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. You
Yes.
don't have to go off and have ostrich because it's on the list. I'm not going to personally. Also, okra, I can't buy it locally, so it's not on my list. It's not prescriptive, like you have to be eating these things on the one-to-one diet step two. That's not what it is. So, don't feel overwhelmed by that. I would encourage you to go through it. You also get it on your app when you register as a slimmer with us. I would encourage you to go through and just knock off anything that you're not going to have, for whatever reason, and treat it like food. It is a small but rather wonderful way of, putting that love and that nurture and that effort back in with food. Because a lot of you out there, it's not that you don't know. This is not a case of intensive re-education. If only they understood that they should be having more protein and fiber. It's more of an opportunity to reduce the overwhelm, like Heidi said, work on one meal a day and really get it right for you. Use herbs and spices, use a little bit of fry light, as long as it's not a tablespoon of mayonnaise, use flavors and seasonings and really make it the way that you want to. Sometimes it can be a bit of grilled chicken and a bag of salad. Other times you might want to go on your app and use one of the step two recipes that's altogether
Yes.
less food assembly and more cookery, and really put a bit of effort in without feeling like, one of my favorite memes out there that always comes around on the algorithm is, the thing is, no one tells you as an adult that you're constantly going to be thinking about what's for dinner every
I know. The things
single
that they didn't tell us
day.
about as an adult, but having to have the responsibility of cooking food every single day for
And just
every meal,
when you've got one day, there's the next
it's
day.
another, it goes again.
To the best of us, that complete overwhelm. But it's also very normal for people to get into janky habits that don't really serve them and kind of wander into overweight. Step two is lovely because it's super practical. We can be working on and talking about a lot of this stuff, in terms of how it works for you and how maybe it hasn't worked for you in the past. That is what your consultant is for, to talk all of that through, whilst we use 3 meal replacements to get the numbers down. So
Yes.
you're losing, you can lose just as much weight on step two as you can on total meal replacement. It's not about I just want the fastest step. Of course it is. That's what we're here for. But it's not just about that. It's also about, I still want you on plan this time in 3 weeks. I want you on plan going all the way,
Yeah, it's
feeling
about what's sustainable for the
yeah,
amount of
you're in
time
the
that
right
you've
place.
got going to do plan for.
Sometimes step 1B suits somebody, sometimes step 2. Sometimes you're on step 1B and you just have a week off. Step
Yes.
2 is worth noting because it's a common misconception that people think you can only do soul source for 12 weeks. Step 2 is what we're going to push you up to for 1 week before going back down into a cycle of 12 weeks of step 1B or step 1A soul source as well. So you will encounter it at some point on your journey. And it is a really, really good one. And it's none of the learning that we do with food on step 2 is for nothing. We do use
No.
later on. It is the foundation stone of everything that we do to move up through the steps in terms of moving towards weight maintenance. But equally, it's that muscle memory. It's creating that visual memory for what does a high protein 200 calorie meal look like. Even if
Yeah.
you're going to do later on is double it and make a 400 calorie dinner. Go on the app and figure out what do you actually like. When all the overwhelm is reduced and you've stopped convincing yourself that you just have to stop eating or that you can only ever eat green salad for the rest of your life. What is it that actually works for you? And step 2 is really good for doing some of that. Other times it is I'm going to have the egg and the low salt baked beans and I'm just not going to think about it too much today. But it's
Yes,
warm and it's
exactly.
filling and we can all move on with our
Yeah.
lives.
Step 2 is fabulous because, like Nell said, it starts getting that muscle memory working. It starts you realizing what portion of protein looks like. That's roughly what a 200 calorie with good portion of protein meal looks like, which helps you when you're out in the wild to look at something on a menu and it arrive on your plate and go, yeah, I know roughly where I am. I feel good about this. I know what I'm doing. It puts you in the driving seat, puts you
Exactly.
back in
That
control.
skill to be able to mitigate with portion control. So you go to a friend's house and it's covered in sauce and it's not exactly on a step 2 list and it's not exactly what you would have chosen, but you're here now and you're going to eat it and you're going to do step B. Plan B is always to mitigate that with your portion control. And when you know this, like everything Heidi just said about what a good dose of protein looks like, it's really empowering. You feel much more in control of the good choices that you can make out in the world around food, and
And it's
that's
those building blocks of skills,
yeah.
isn't it? That's what we're always trying to do, is build out your skills so that long-term weight maintenance is possible, so that we can take all this through. And that is why the steps are like they are. And you don't have to start at the bottom and go up. We can start anywhere, but it is why they're structured as they are, so that we are constantly building out those skills and a little bit of proving to you that food is not the enemy, that
I
you can
hate
have a nice tasty meal and
and
lose
lose weight.
weight. It's going to be okay. You can go and have lunch with your friends on Saturday and still be working on your
I think
goals
that's
and still
being a
see
bit driver's
results.
seat as well, is that when you feel like you're in the driver's seat and you are in charge of this in the direction that's going, rather than it being imposed on you, I get to is always going to be easier than I have to. So we're all about that. But it's equally, it's that reflexive react. Oh, she wants to go out before we see the show. And that instant reaction of, well, that's okay. I'll do step 2. So you know exactly what to
Rather
do.
than saying, oh, I can't do that. Oh my God, this is going to be terrible. I just won't go.
Exactly. Or I'm on step 1B and or step 1A, I'm on soul source and now I'm locked in.
Yeah.
Step 2 is that little vent that you can let off that little bit of steam and it's not going to slow your weight loss down, because we've just told you all of the little tips and tricks, and equally that becomes even more personalized when we know what your list says on it, that we know that you don't eat red meat, so we're going to do this instead. Or it's why when you text me, I'm here and I wasn't expecting this to happen, but here's the menu or here's the
I
website.
love a menu. I love a menu. And people going, there's nothing on here. And I'm like, let me see. Let me see, because there will be something.
I mean, it depends where we are because there's always the good, but there is always the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yes.
There's always the better
There's
choice.
always choices to be made, and there is always a choice that you can make. And it's always better to have made an intentional choice and go, that is what I'm doing. And suddenly the relief and not having to choose on the spot and all of that pressure goes away. And you can get back to enjoying the fact that you're with your friends, your family, whoever you're out for a meal with, which was the whole point of going, and not be panicking about the food side.
It's also worth saying that not everything has to be cooked from scratch and completely,
So
homespun.
I was just going to grab a step up meal
Yeah,
right
Heidi
next
has
to
to
me.
have them perfectly. I'm not in. Yeah, there you are, like a QVC presenter.
So if you're like, do you know what, I like that idea, but doing that 7 days a week, that was a lot of work. Or you're like, well, they're getting a takeaway tonight and I want something quick and easy. we sell
Chicken curry.
these lovely things called step up meals.
Yeah.
They're 200-calorie microwave meals. We do them in a range of flavors. This one happens to be Mediterranean style tomato pasta, so it's a vegetarian version. We do a vegetable chili with potato wedges. Love. We also do a beef casserole and a chicken curry. It's a
Yes.
very nice
And
range.
they're perfect. Pop them in the microwave, stick them in a
Good
pan on the
portion
hob.
size too.
And again, they are almost like it's almost like they've come out of the big pot where the proper meal has been cooked. So instead of, putting a few prawns together with a little bit of, green lettuce, which I think of as food assembly, if you see what I mean. It's like I sometimes think that you take a Lego brick from the protein list and a Lego brick from the vegetable list, and we're going to click them together and we're going to make it as easy as possible. But they're a little bit more advanced in terms of, food and flavor development. And you'll find them on the app as well. So sometimes Monday through Friday, it is, kitchen ninja dressed in black, in and out of the kitchen in under 5 minutes, 2 egg scramble and some grilled mushrooms. Jobs are good. And thank goodness I've got something that's, not my fourth meal replacement today, and it's something to chew, and I get to sit down and eat with a knife and fork and ask my partner, how was your day?
Yeah.
Other times you might have a little bit of the headspace at the weekend to do one of the recipes. We've got an amazing Greek chicken tray bake,
Oh, it's
and
lush.
that's really popular. My favorite one is the falafel. The falafel, is a really good, like it's
Or the one that everyone always comes to me about. And they go, there's salmon on the app.
salmon on the app.
Salmon seems to light up people's little brains.
And
They're like, oh,
that
salmon.
again, feeling like you have options and you can kind of like reignite that excitement around food, and allow yourself to enjoy it. It's the I get to, and if you don't have the headspace, then you go back to doing step up meals and a couple of hard boiled eggs and spinach. It really, you can kind of cut your budget to the day that you're having, and then you start thinking, well, actually, I could do this for weeks. I could do this for a few weeks on end, and I could see myself doing this into June and into July. And it's not quite so much one and done. Well, just we'll hit it really hard and see how lucky we get.
Yeah.
So
And you can see that it's structured, but it's not prescriptive. We've given you options. There are ways to tweak it. There are things that you can do that make it feel easier for you, and that's what we're always going to chat through in our consultations with
It is
you.
worth saying that salmon is in there, but it's not. If it's come from the one-to-one app, I hate exceptions to rules because you've just laid it all out. Hopefully,
I know. I just said if it's not on the list, it's not coming in, except for if it's in the app, because somebody worked all that out. A nice nutritionist went in there and worked out all the macros and said that's suitable for step 2, so you don't have to do the work.
It's protein prioritization. So as long as your meal is made up of the 90% protein element, I mean, if we're going to get really nerdy about it, it's also about amino acids, which is why I don't want you only using eggs or only using chicken, because if you keep them varied, then there are a whole plethora of amino acids, and only some of them will be in chicken, and only some of them will be in fish, and only some of them will be in corn mince. So we do want to try and keep as much as possible, and it is a bit more challenging for vegetarians because obviously vegetarian proteins do tend to be a little bit higher in carb. I'm going off on one now. The point is, I know all of that so that you don't have to.
You don't have to. This is what I said to Slimmer this week. She was like, oh, I'm thinking 2 steps ahead. And I was like, stop it.
Yes.
The benefit of this is that you can go, I don't need to worry about that because that's Heidi's job. That's her problem to worry about what's happening in a couple of weeks.
Trust the advice you're being given. And that's why we have a relationship. And also then this is, I think, one of my favorite things about the one-to-one and my job is know that I really do want to know about the minutiae. Yes. All of that stuff that you think is a bother and is really boring and not really, no, come and tell us, because this is worth getting it right. Because once it's right for you, you can go all the way. I'm not coming along with a pitchfork and a boot up the bum to try and get you up through the steps. You can go all the way to goal on step 2. And there might be tweaks and there might be events and there might be things that we need to do along the way. But generally speaking, your plan is this. We've worked hard to figure out what suits you, and you're going all the way this time, baby.
Yeah, it's one of the most popular steps. People love it because it has got that combination of conventional food in a really structured way and the meal replacements, which, like we said last week, are giving you a third of your daily vitamins and minerals. They're nutritionally complete. They're high protein, low carb, not no carb. We are giving you everything your body needs to fuel it appropriately. And that is why we have the guidelines about which step is you should do for you as an individual, based on your BMI, based on how much you would like to lose, based on your lifestyle, based on your medical conditions, based on your medication. That is what you're coming to us for, that expert guidance to make sure you are in the right place doing the right thing, that will work with the life that you have now. Not Sally 5 years ago when she did the plan, who magically did it on step 1A, but now that would be
My
not the right step.
my favorite old chestnut. I'll wait till things calm down. Yeah, oh God. Good luck.
Okay.
When's that going to take?
I'll see you in 2 years when things have not calmed down. They're exactly the same,
One
if
of my
not a
clients,
little bit more frantic.
I spoke to one of my clients this morning. This is top tip. I spoke to one of my clients this morning, who is a doctor, who is doing fantastically on plan, loving it. Because notoriously, vending machines and cafeteria, if that's even open, and on huge shifts at the hospital. So meal replacements work brilliantly. But the step 2 meal is wasn't time, so it was 2 meal replacements and the chicken tikka, the savory product, the meal replacement, with the protein and the veg from the step 2. So it made a 400-calorie meal.
Should say that you can put your product and your step 2 meal, smash them together to make one 400-calorie meal.
Ready-made bar, lots of water, long shift. Then the break, and the break was break room, microwave, soak the chicken tikka. I mean, it could be any of them. One of my favorite ones is the white fish portion from step 2 in the Thai green curry, because it's just got that lemongrassy and a little bit of chili flake, and it's got some real flavor, and you bulk it out. The bags of salad as well that go on sale sometimes, like they're reduced to 80p or 2 for £1 or something. They're 80 grams. So as long as you're not getting the one that's all full of all the extras, that's like 120 grams, but the 80-gram one, there is no measuring. So, even when you're at the hospital and you're working, or you're at school, you
In the bowl it goes.
Exactly. Bosh, bish, bash, bosh. 400 calories. It sounds not very much out in the wild, but on plan, when your stomach's shrunk down, you've got your nutrition, remember, all your boxes are being ticked, so your appetite is hugely suppressed. That feels like a proper dinner.
Yeah, the Thai green curry chili, what do we call it? Thai green style curry noodles. As it says on my shelf. You know what I mean? It's the meal replacement. Just put hot water in, you wait 3 minutes, Bob's your uncle. That I love that as a base to add your 200-calorie step 2 meal.
In their case, it wasn't actually even shredded chicken. It was chicken that they had bought from the co-op, the kind of pre-cooked.
Well, this is the thing. Step 2 is doable if you're like, I've brought nothing with me. Oh my God, what am I going to do? You're going to go and buy a bag of salad.
Yeah, you're going to nip
buy pre-cooked chicken or pre-cooked fish or something, and you're going to whack it in a bowl, and you'll be proud that you managed to get it done.
It's what we call the step 2 meal deal. You go straight past the 800-calorie meal deals.
Yes, go past the pre-assembled ones. We're going to buy the components.
Yeah, the cooked protein section. And to the salad, and also the other top tip, whilst I've got you here, is that the salad list. If you're already on plan, you'll know what I'm talking about. You can do a mixed salad. It doesn't have to be all the green leaves. We're not on the rabbit fish.
No, it's not like I can only have 80 grams of asparagus and nothing else.
So if you make a salad and it's got a little bit of celery and it's got half a cherry tomato and a little bit of cucumber, I'm very fussy. I like it done on the day. I don't like a 3-day-old salad because it's, the first little bit of slimy spinach in there, and I'm so, but the handful that you take out, as long as that's 80 grams, then it doesn't matter if it's also got those other little bits in it. So small but perfectly formed on step 2 is something that we will be able to craft, because once you've done that first reset and you're in the right place doing the right thing, you'd be surprised that total overwhelm, that I just don't even want to talk about this right now, I don't even want to hear about food, I don't want to think about it, it comes back. Actually, I think I can. As morale goes up, your ability to cope with all of this goes up a little bit. And it turns out it wasn't because you're daft and that you didn't know. It wasn't that you can't ever eat food. It's just little by little rehabilitating that.
And before you know it, you're spiralizing a courgette like I was. And you're going, this is groundbreaking. I can have a lot of this. Look what this looks like.
Might be my favourite quote of the day. And before you know it, you're spiralising
a courgette. And also, the one of the brilliant things about step 2 is sometimes on meal replacement only. And if you've been doing it for those 12 weeks and you're about to step up, everything feels a little bit soft. To the best of our ability, even the savoury meals, it's always a little bit softer, a bit chewy. But sometimes you just want to masticate a little bit more. You just want something crunchy to chew. You just want a bit of cucumber in there. You just want a bit of tough chicken to get your mouth going. And
not too much to ask for, is it?
No. And step 2 does that perfectly. And that can give you a really good balance. And also sometimes having that meal of conventional food psychologically, sometimes it just makes it all feel a little bit easier. And that's what we're looking for. The step that's going to feel the easiest for you right now so that you can be on it for as long as you need to be on it, and it's sustainable. And like Nell said, you're still here in a month's time, in 2 months' time, feeling good, doing something that fits in with you. So that in a nutshell is step 2. We have a playlist of all the steps, and last week we talked about step 1A and step 1B. Next week we'll talk about step 3, but there are some older videos still in that playlist and we're replacing them as we go along, but they will still give you an overview of those steps. So if you can't wait to find out what step 3, 4, 5 maintenance looks like, you can go to the playlist and you can see those other videos where we go through that. But next week we will talk about step 3, which means you do need to go on here and subscribe so that you get the notifications, so that you don't miss those videos, and you can see exactly what the one-to-one diet is all about. If you're thinking, I'd quite like to plan, all of our details are in the description box below. Me and Nell do see clients separately. We are separate consultants. We come together to talk to you. So you do need to choose one of us, but both of our details will be in the description box below, and we are always happy to chat anything through. We will see you next week. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.
Bye.